Hey guys, Serena here. I am filming this video on June 24th. I am officially a month post-surgery, so I thought I would check in and give you a 1 month update, let you know how things are going, and tell you about surgery day. Maybe let's start there at the beginning. So I had surgery on May 23rd, 2017. And it was probably one of the most anxious days of my life. Maybe not the most. I don't like pain, never been big on doctors. The idea of someone cutting into me when there's nothing, really wrong. We could argue about whether or not there was something wrong with me or not. But I was choosing to have this done. I was choosing to have doctors go in, cut me open, and just fiddle around with the way my organs are wired. So I had to be at the hospital a couple of hours early. So I got there and I was just I was a nervous wreck. I think in the back of my mind, I kept thinking of ways to get out of it. You have like the little angel and the little devil on your shoulder. Luckily, I guess the angel prevailed and knew that, I'd been down this really long path to get here, and that it really was something that I wanted, and that whatever was thrust in front of me, I would handle. So I had the surgery. Again, I was really nervous. The nurses and the anesthesiologists kept asking me if I was okay, because they would come in the little prep room where they're getting you ready and doing all the last minute testing before wheeling you off to surgery. And they kept asking me if I was okay, because I would just kind of be laying back, staring off into space, probably with a nervous look in my eyes. And I explained that I was just incredibly nervous. I don't know if this is normal. I feel like it probably is, but they totally gave me Valium before wheeling me into the OR to calm me down. And I didn't get that it was special or weird for me. I just think they kind of try to get you calm before they start. And I didn't really feel like it took effect at all. But then I remember getting into the OR and them introducing me to all of the nurses and the surgical team. And I just kind of, in a little bit of a haze, remember being super friendly. I'm a nice, friendly person, but I'm also really shy and reserved at times. So I just remember being in the hospital, in the hospital gown, being hi, just waving to everyone. It was really weird. But really, before I knew it, I was out. And next thing I knew, I was waking up from surgery. I just remember them, telling me it's okay, it's time to wake up now. And I just remember the first feeling I had was oh my God, what the hell have I done? Because I just felt so weird and bad. It wasn't it's a manageable bad feeling. I don't know how else to describe it. And my biggest problem was that I really couldn't take a really big, deep breath. I felt like I was having trouble breathing, and evidently that is also very normal given the medicine and stuff that you're coming out of. And I do remember being in pain. It was a dull, constant ache. And just, again, that whole feeling of what have I done, and thinking it's going to last a long time. But pretty quickly they wheeled me into the room that I was going to be in, and I don't really remember much after that. I spent the entire first day post-surgery really sleeping a lot. I had friends that came to visit. They were there waiting for me after I got wheeled in, and I vaguely remember, and they've told me that I was basically just you guys can leave now. I don't need you here. And that's just because when I feel really bad and feel like that, I tend to want to be left alone. Well, over the course of the next day and a half, because I only stayed in the hospital overnight. And it wasn't until later on the evening of the day after surgery that I actually asked for pain medication. And let me tell you, that pain medication was amazing. Perhaps I shouldn't have waited so long, because it just immediately took away any kind of pain. And again, the pain really was more of it was just this weird dull ache, and the fact that I felt like I could feel all of my insides. I was hyper aware of them. I don't know if that was psychosomatic or actually true. But the pain medicine, which was laudanum, took that away. After a few hours later on that evening, I also got up and walked around the floor that I was on. And I did that once again the next day. But, I think I only took pain medicine twice in that period. And I probably could have toughed it out, but after I took it the first time, I was like, why not? Especially if I get really good sleep. Second day, you're finally able to consume a little bit of liquid, and they bring you a little bit of broth, and you can sip on water, which is good because my mouth was so dry following surgery. I just remember really wanting something to drink. On the flip side, you feel kind of like crappy enough that the thought of food or anything like that is a bit revolting. But yeah, I was in the hospital a little over 24 hours, and then they let me out, and I was kind of thrust into the world to begin my 21-day liquid diet with my new guts. Oh, the other thing that was interesting about leaving the hospital, like things I didn't expect, I don't feel like I was 100% prepared for. I knew I would have to take shots, blood thinner, in order to, I don't know, they just prescribe them where I go post-surgery. I thought it would only be for like a week or so. It turns out it was like for 2.5, almost 3 weeks. And I thought they were going to be like the diabetic type shots, where like the pen where it just like pops in and out. But these were like full blown. I had to give myself shots, and I really didn't like that. The other thing I wasn't expecting was the fact that they had, during surgery, in a different part of like the upper part of my stomach, like right under your bra, they inserted like a pain pump. So these little tubes came out of my stomach and were attached to this little ball that I would carry in like a little bag. And supposedly that like delivers some kind of topical medication. I don't know. I don't really know. I was never really certain of what pain exactly that was going to control, because they also sent me home with OxyContin, which I took once, but I mean, really, like the pain went away really quickly, and I didn't need it, so I took it once. The evening I came home from surgery, and never really had it again after that. The pain pump was just a real pain in the ass. One, you're carrying this little ball with you with these tubes coming out of you, and I don't know, I mean, I get queasy seeing things like that coming out of my body. So, their instructions were basically like, you can pull it out after 3 to 5 days. So that Sunday or Saturday, maybe Saturday, I was just over it, and I didn't feel like I needed it. I wasn't feeling really any pain. Again, still hyper aware kind of my insides in a weird way, but nothing I would characterize as really bad pain. Like really the worst day was the first day. And even that, I mean, let's be honest, minus like the first 10 minutes coming out of surgery, was all super bearable. So that was kind of my surgical experience. I really did have great doctors. So if you're like me, you might have worried about being hungry following surgery, and just knowing that you were going to have to spend the next 15 days on clear liquids, and then 7 additional days after that on all liquids. But really, you don't have anything to worry about, or at least I didn't have anything to worry about. I think it was super helpful to have spent the 4 weeks prior to surgery doing largely a liquid diet. It was all protein shakes with a couple of protein bars mixed in throughout the day. That really, and in fact the last week was just strictly protein shakes. That was incredibly helpful in getting prepared for really decreasing your calorie count and not being hungry. So I really do credit that with making the post-surgery diet, so to speak, 100% manageable, like totally manageable. The other thing that really helped is like you really don't feel like eating. That first week following surgery, it just like getting the protein shakes down was even hard. I felt like prior to surgery I'd been blending my protein shakes with ice, and that was just too much for my stomach following surgery. So I went back to just, mixing them with the 8 ounces of water and drinking them like that. But, I really had no desire for food at all. I did what I was told. I drank the appropriate amount of shakes, and I tried really hard to drink the appropriate amount of water. But yeah, I didn't really find the first 15 days post-surgery challenging, at least from a food perspective. So I had 2 weeks after surgery, I had my first follow-up appointment. Everything went really well. And I was transitioned to full liquids, which meant that I could have milk if I wanted it. I'm not really a milk person, but then I could also add in, plain Greek yogurt, soups, again, only broth soups. No, there was nothing chewable that I could have. Cream-based soups, and they recommended some organic kinds with the super low sugar that was well under the 12-gram max. Low fat and the like. And again, you were still only having like a really small amount, but I did factor some of those in. And while it was a little weird, there were a couple that made me feel, I don't know, like a little, not nauseous, but just like off. For the most part, it was okay. And so for that week, I factored in, I would have like a half cup or a cup of soup, depending on, the type of soup it was and what the recommended serving size. I would have those. And then, at that same doctor's appointment, I was told to move on to the mushy or the soft food phase a week after I completed the full liquids. And so that was a week and a couple of days ago, where I began having 3 meals a day. Each meal was 2 ounces. And then along with 2 protein shakes, and of course the 48 to 64 ounces of water in between. And my transition to mushy foods was a little bit bumpier. I immediately started off that Thursday morning where I could have it with a scrambled egg. The scrambled egg is exactly 2 ounces. It's recommended, it's protein, I'm supposed to be able to eat it. So, I made myself a scrambled egg, I sat down to eat it, and I could only eat 3 bites. And even after 3 bites, I felt horrific. I actually ended up calling out of work that day because I felt like I was dying. My stomach was so full and so painful, and it lasted for about 2.5 hours before I started to feel fine again. And so, that was just really weird. I mean, it was such it wasn't even close to the 2 ounces that I was supposed to be eating, but, I took it for what it was. For lunch, I had made myself 2 ounces of tuna with a little bit of teeny tiny bit of just mayo and some cumin and stuff mixed in to flavor it up. I made a little bitty kind of like a tuna salad. I guess I actually only had 1 ounce of the tuna salad because one of the recommended meals or sample meal plans in the book said a little bit of tuna salad with 2 saltines, which I also thought was a little weird that you could have, but I gave it a go. And I ate that just fine. I didn't have the same feelings that I had when I ate the scrambled egg. And so for dinner later on that night, I had an ounce of salmon. I had a salmon fillet, and so I had 1 ounce of that, and then 1 ounce of steamed broccoli. And again, same deal, no problems feeling sick like I did with the egg. A couple of days later, I tried an egg again for breakfast. I eat even more slowly, pause between each bite. I still only got 3 bites in. I didn't actually start feeling sick like I did before, but I definitely stopped myself when I felt like that might be coming on. So I don't know if I just have a weird thing with eggs, or maybe I should try eggs cooked another way. I know the doctor and nutritionist recommend kind of experimenting with certain foods if you feel like you're intolerant. But for the time being, I'm going to lay off eggs for a little bit because clearly they don't work for me. So in terms of, the mushy diet so far, like I said, I've been a little over a week in. I haven't been getting hungry. Like it's plenty of food. And honestly, I've been incredibly challenged trying to fit in the protein drinks as well as the water consumption. I'm having a really hard time with that. The past couple of days have been a lot better, but I find it incredibly challenging just to schedule all of those things in my day and consume them, especially with liquids. You know, my water, I used to put like flavored Mio or Crystal Light, and I can't do that anymore. It just makes me feel nauseous. And even now, water makes me feel a little nauseous, which is weird. You can have the vitamin water zero. I've added a little bit of that in. That's helpful. Just trying to find kind of things that allow me to get my liquids in a day. One of the other things is that, you know, I've become, and, you know, they tell you to do this, and it's certainly been helpful, like hyper aware of trying to understand my body and when I'm hungry and when I just want to eat. One of the things that I've discovered since having the surgery is that, you know, especially now, it's rare that I get hungry. If I wait a while between meals, and again, we're talking 2 ounces of food here, I will start to feel a little hungry. But of course, there are times when, you know, I feel myself wanting to eat. And that'll be like when you're passing like one of your favorite restaurants, or even when like the teriyaki salmon and broccoli were actually really good. And like in my mind, I'm like, I should be having more than this. Why am I only having this amount? When really that amount was completely 100% fine. So I've got a lot of internal dialogue going on at this point in my life. Really analyzing, whether I'm hungry or whether it's just this, habitual craving of food. And so, by having that internal dialogue with myself, I've actually found it manageable. And at no point have I actually deviated or gone off plan. And again, I think that's one of the good things about surgery. I mean, obviously it's the level of commitment required to do the surgery helps keep you on track, the fact that you truly aren't hungry, but it's also just, again, it's that tool. It's the potential negative ramifications of eating more or eating the wrong thing or anything like that. I don't know, like I've been 100% by the book, because the one thing, again, I don't like is pain or uncomfortableness or the thought that I could do myself irreparable harm. So that's been enough so far to keep me on track. And so what I'm using this time to do is really train myself, train my mind to, be in tune with my stomach and my body, and really move past some of the brain games that tell you that you want or you need to eat more or you're craving a certain thing. So, yeah, that's where I am in terms of food right now, a month post-surgery. So in terms of other challenges, in addition to kind of like the mind games I'm playing with myself, and that's food cravings or the thinking that you need more, the other challenges have been, like I mentioned before, getting in the appropriate amount of water and the appropriate amount of protein. I know it's important in terms of my caloric intake, not getting dehydrated, continuing to lose weight. And this leads into the biggest side effect that I've had is the constipation. Ugh, I feel weird talking about poo on here. The constipation they say you might have. I've definitely experienced that, and it has not been my friend. I used to have these problems when I was really young. All right, before I end this, let's get to the thing that I think a lot of people care about, which are the results. It's been weird weighing myself on such a regular basis. I find it really hard not to get tied to the number and not to get disappointed when the number doesn't move as much as I would like. I was weighing myself every day, and I had to give that up because when I got home from surgery, I weighed myself the next day and I'd actually gained weight. Guessing that's because things were swollen and maybe I was retaining water, but that was incredibly disheartening after, being in so much pain. So, I've taken to weighing myself 1 to 2 times a week just to kind of track. And there have been a couple times where I've noticed midweek I'd have a little bit of a bump up by like a quarter of a pound or a pound, And, I'm guessing that's, again, your body naturally fluctuates and stuff like that. And so I'm trying to detach myself from the actual number, though it's incredibly hard. I've noticed that my clothes are quite a bit looser. I've already had to switch to smaller bras that I had in stock. Anyway, let's get to the actual number. So over the course of the last, since mid-April, about April 15th, because that's really when I started the pre-op dieting. That was the Atkins, and then quickly moved on a week later to the protein supplements. So I'm tracking my weight loss from that point because, again, that's really when the weight loss started. And so since then, I've lost, I'm looking at my calculator, 66.7 pounds since mid-April, which isn't that bad. Yeah, it's probably really good. It's really hard to wrap my mind around what's normal and what's not. And I keep telling myself that I have so far to go and that I have, so far to go, and that things will fluctuate and change, that to just not get tied up in the number and really focus on how I feel. Though I will say I have set myself kind of an interim smaller goals to try to get to and shoot for. So obviously my first big goal is to lose 100 pounds. In my mind, I've got a time frame for when I'd like that to happen by. I don't really know if that's realistic or not. I know that eventually the weight loss will slow down. And so again, I keep telling myself this is all part of my internal dialogue, that, it's not a diet. It's not a race. This is a new way of life. So however long it takes is however long it takes. But yeah, 66.7 pounds lost so far, and I'm feeling pretty good. Hopefully in the next video or two, I will show you kind of a full body update. I don't know if it'll look that different to you. It doesn't look super different to me, but again, I know my clothes feel differently, and I certainly feel differently. I have a ton more energy and stuff like that. But until next time, I hope you find this 4-week update interesting and or helpful.